Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with another video. So, we actually have some pretty significant news on the Powerpuff Girls revival or reboot or sequel series or whatever you want to call it or whatever it ends up being. Craig McCracken actually took to Twitter to answer some fan questions on the upcoming series, and it does reveal a little bit of some insight as to what we can possibly expect for this series. So first off, someone asked Craig on Twitter if there are going to be any changes to the logo or any modification to the design of the Powerpuff Girls themselves, and Craig responded saying, "I don't expect I'll be doing any design changes to the girls, and the logo might be modified depending on what we decide to call the series." So a couple of things here. Obviously, Craig is saying that there's not going to be any significant design changes to the Powerpuff Girls themselves, which means one of two things. Number one, they want to keep it true to the original series, which is obviously a good thing to hear. But number two, if there aren't going to be any significant design changes, I would say that this series probably isn't going to be a sequel series to the original, in the sense that it's like in the future and they're aged up, if that makes sense. Like, you know how we got Steven Universe and then Steven Universe Future, and then obviously Ben 10 to Ben 10 Alien Force, how the characters, they looked different, they kind of had a redesign to them because they are aged up. This is a sequel series that is taking place far into the future after the original. So given that the Powerpuff Girls themselves are going to stay looking the way they did in the original series, that probably means that this isn't going to be something like a Ben 10 Alien Force or like a Steven Universe Future. If it's going to be a sequel series to the original or a revival, it's probably going to be taking place within close proximity of what happened in the original series. So in other words, it's not going to be a show that's taking place like 10-15 years later if the characters aren't going to be receiving redesigns. Number two, he's saying that they might modify the logo depending on what they decide to call the series. So that makes me wonder, okay, number one, it's probably not going to be called the Powerpuff Girls. It's going to be the Powerpuff Girls with some sort of subtitle to it. So that makes me wonder, okay, what is this series exactly going to be about? What's the theme of this series going to be? And we actually have a little bit of an answer to that question in the next tweet from Craig McCracken. So someone asked Craig on Twitter, if this series is going to be a continuation of where the original left off, wouldn't it be best to keep the same name and not call it something different and just have it be new seasons of the original rather than being a new show? And Craig responded saying it will still be called the Powerpuff Girls, but the one difference with these new episodes is we want to tell a bigger, longer story in the Powerpuff Girls universe, so we thought we'd give that story a title. Now, this is just music to my ears, honestly, because for years now I've been saying that Cartoon Network needs to have some sort of shows with a long form story attached to them. Enough with these shows that are one and off episodes here and there. They have no cohesive narrative to them. Like, yeah, it's fine to have those shows on the channel, but it needs to be a variety. They need to have some shows that do have one and off type episodes with no cohesive long form narrative, but at the same time, there's also a need to have series that have a start, middle, and end point to the story they're trying to tell us, the narrative they're trying to portray, and it seems like this new Powerpuff Girls series is going to be the latter. It's going to be a show that has a cohesive narrative, a story that it's trying to tell, and honestly, that's really exciting to hear. It's really exciting to see that Cartoon Network is actually going to have shows again that have a strong narrative, that aren't just one and off episodes, that are actually going to have a start, middle, and end point to a story. I mean, yes, we did get that with parts of Steven Universe, with parts of Adventure Time, even like season 8 of regular show, but it's not the same to me as some of the older series where every episode tied into the next. With regular show season 8, it was like that, but with Adventure Time and Steven Universe, they had periods of, this strong narrative that tied into the overarching story, but then they also had spaces of where we had episodes, particularly in Steven Universe, that there would be a span of like 10-15 episodes that were kind of just filler. They weren't really adding anything to the overall story of Steven Universe, and there would be these long periods of drought where we would have, strong story-driven episodes, filler episodes, and then it would be a while again until we see another set of strong story-driven episodes. So I'm hoping that this Powerpuff Girls series is basically strong, cohesive narrative throughout the entirety of the show. Not so we have a bunch of filler episodes to just buy some time until we get to the real big stuff. And all in all, from what we're seeing so far, that this is going to have a bigger, longer story, I think it's great. I think this is really great to hear. here, and all in all too, he didn't exactly address if this is a continuation of where the original left off, but from what I'm reading here from his tweets, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this most likely isn't a reboot. To me, it seems like this might be more so of a sequel series to the original series or some sort of revival. It seems like it's going to be building off of the original, and it's not going to be, you know, this brand new thing that's disjointed or not connected to the original series. If you look at the Powerpuff Girls 2016 reboot compared to the original series, the only real similarities between the two of them is that they share the same name and share some of the same characters. From a narrative or storytelling perspective, or from a tone's perspective even, the two shows are very different. The original Powerpuff Girls was more serious. It had a more action-oriented style to it, as opposed to the reboot, which was more comedy-oriented with a more goofy style to it. So it seems like this Powerpuff Girls series is going to definitely be much more serious. It's probably going to have a bit of a darker tone to it. I'd assume it's going to be action-oriented like the original series. So all of that makes me think this is probably going to be, if not, you know, directly connected to the original, loosely connected to it, where we're not forgetting everything that happened before. We're building off of that while also doing something new and fresh, where you don't need to watch the entirety of the original series to pick up this new show and understand what's going on. It's probably going to be a situation, like I said, where it's loosely connected to the original. Like if you saw the entirety of the original Powerpuff Girls, there's going to be things that you'll pick up on in this show, like you'll be rewarded for watching all of it. But if you haven't seen the original Powerpuff Girls, you'll still enjoy this series and you won't miss out on any key details. But all in all, honestly, this is great to hear. It is so great to hear that Cartoon Network is making a long-form series again with an actual strong story-driven narrative, and I can't wait to see what this turns out to be. It's probably going to be far out, honestly, given that they don't even have a title for it yet. I know titles are often the last thing that some of these shows, you know, get. They often have like a working title, and then when they're close to completing it, they have the, you know, tentative new title that they're going to show to the public. But this is probably early in development, given that there's not a ton of details on it and that it was just announced, what, like 3-4 weeks ago. So we're probably not going to see it for a while, but all in all, what I'm hearing so far, I'm definitely excited for. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what form this series takes. But anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all of this. Are you excited that this is going to be a long-form story narrative in the Powerpuff Girls universe? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.